All right, so ask me anything time. Let's see what's going on with Pop Talk. Oh, wow, we're in another one of those situations. We are so close on holiday themed one shot ideas. Um, okay. Like I think I did the last time we did this, I'll spend a little bit of time on both of these because I actually think that, especially the one that won, I think that my stance on this is going to maybe make that a little bit shorter than potentially the person who asked the question, but also anybody else that's interested might like that to be. But I think so. As we're thinking about how should the question is how should I discourage my DM from getting a DM versus player mentality? The thing that I'm going to start off by saying is that I'm not exactly sure you should discourage your DM from getting that mentality. And I need to explain myself a little bit. I think that as you are coming together to play with friends or a group of friends, up, hold on. One little cough. I'm going to mute. Hold on. All right. I hope that worked. Otherwise, your ears are blown. All right. So, what I will say about that is that as you come together to play with the other people around the table, there needs to be a social contract and there needs to be a strong investigation and exploration of what the expectations are going to be for that one shot, for that campaign, for whatever it is that you're playing. And so, some groups out there, I don't necessarily want to yuck anybody's yum out there. Some groups enjoy what I would say a lot of people label as an old school approach to DM as more, an adjudicator, a referee, a judge, and someone who is going to be more adversarial towards the group. So some groups enjoy that and appreciate that. And that is where they derive their enjoyment and value out of the game from. So I want to start by saying that you might not need to discourage your DM from doing that because perhaps your DM enjoys the game most by operating in that mode. It is also potentially possible that other players around the table enjoy that as well. It could be just yourself or a few of the other players that maybe have issues with that approach. And so if that's the case, it might not be the group for you. And I know that sometimes we have to, you know, love the ones we have because it is tough to find groups sometimes. But if this is something that, really is a problem for you and you recognize that for the DM and possibly other players, that's a play style that they would like to continue to use, then it may be time for you to either change your expectations and see if you still have fun. But if you're not having fun, to leave that group, and that's always a hard thing. But it's definitely something. Life is pretty short, and you don't want to spend it in a situation that you don't want to be in. So I do want to say that first. Now, if there is a discussion, and I encourage a discussion about what your dungeon master actually enjoys and likes, and your DM realizes that they do not, necessarily mean to be adversarial in their approach, then that's a situation where, again, it's talking. A lot of times, it's talking outside of the game session. I would not recommend trying to have this argument about, why are you so mean to me and the players? Like, why can't you just get off our backs? Like in the middle of a session, probably not going to go over very well. But outside of sessions, trying to talk to the DM about, again, those expectations, because I do think that we've seen a dramatic shift in the game from earlier days in the game where things were more DM as judge, and now we're getting more and more into DM as storyteller. And so I think that at least if you have that conversation, you can point out example DMs, especially through streams, of DMs that are maybe storytellers versus DMs who are a little more judge like. And so, again, different players like different things. Be open, honest about that with your dungeon master. And if you prefer story, then I definitely encourage you to find a group that really values that at the same level that you do. And then things, I can tell you from experience, things will almost instantly get better just because of the open, honest communication about expectations up front. So I think I'm going to stop there with that one. Uh, Again, the main emphasis that I'm placing on this is it might be a situation where maybe you shouldn't be discouraging the DM from doing that if that is what they enjoy about the game. It might be more of a situation of finding like minded players that you can play with that are going to value what you value. All right. And then I'll talk a little bit about uh, winter holiday themed one shot ideas. So I do love pulling in creatures and individuals from folklore and mythology into my games. I find it fascinating. One of the homebrew campaigns and worlds that I ran for a very long time was something that I called Worlds Apart, which was and the shorthand was the leylands, like ley lines, but it was the leylands, and this idea that people from our Earth can get sucked into this other realm that was called the leylands, and ultimately what ended up happening inside of the leylands, they landed in a town called Learton, which is backwards for not real. I thought that was very, very clever. But they landed in Learton, and it was this hodgepodge of refugees that were coming from our Earth into this land. Very Stardust. I'm a big fan of Neil Gaiman. Love the concept that fairy is just on the edge of everything that we know of, and that if we could just somehow pierce that veil and reach through it, then we could be in those lands. And one of the things that one of the storylines was Adolf Hitler did not actually commit suicide in our Earth. He made it look like he did, and he actually used, since he is obsessed with the occult, he actually used an object to pass over into the leylands, where he then established another kind of kingdom in the leylands. They called him the Wolf King. Adolf means wolf. Again, I was very proud of myself. And so ultimately, as all of that's coming, across, it gave me an opportunity for a lot of things from our world to intersect with things in that. And I remember, so St. Nicholas, Chris Kringle, Santa Claus definitely made an appearance in that campaign. And it was one of the more memorable sessions that we ever had. And so I always am a fan of Krampus or Saint Nick or any of those kinds of characters making an appearance. In the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, that was one of my favorite parts of the book, even of some of the recent movies that have been made, is when Santa Claus appears and gives the characters a boon or a gift that's going to help them overcome the challenges that lie ahead. And so, as far as a holiday themed one shot idea, I definitely think that bringing in the familiar, you may play with a group that has completely different types of beliefs. And that is wonderful because there's a lot of rich history to really be able to pull out to play. So, again, whatever works for your group, pulling in the familiar for a one shot always helps with being able to get to the story faster because you don't have to spend time in any type of exposition. Everyone knows who St. Nicholas is. St. Nicholas, the gift giver, as he comes into the game. There's a strong concept of who that character is, and then you can move forward with the idea. And then, of course, once you have the wonderful wholesomeness of this familiar character or familiar characters come into your holiday one shot, then you have to make it, you have to turn it around as quickly as you possibly can into the worst possible situation imaginable. And so, what I have done in the past is very much so Grinch like. that whatever it is that makes that holiday special. So, by the way, this would apply to not only anything with a Christmas or a Hanukkah or anything. It can be Halloween, it can be Valentine's Day, it can be any kind of holiday like that. That whatever makes that holiday meaningful to the people who celebrate it, you take that away, and typically that's the big concept that I'm doing. So, right, wrong, or indifferent, gift giving is a very, very big part of the holiday season, at least in North America. And so, I'd say that taking away gifts a la the Grinch is a great idea to do that, especially if it makes children sad. And so that is, you've got plenty of conflict there. So those are the things that I've used in the past. Nothing, I typically don't use pre-written adventures much, but I am almost certain that you can find some great things on the DM's Guild that are holiday based as well. So I encourage anybody that's looking for that to go out there and do it. All right. We'll move on from there. All right, let me see. Let me make sure that I'm not missing anything here. All right. Coming back to the Ask Me Anything. All right, I think we're going to get into questions. Okay, let's go with our questions. Let's see what I got. Casual Shadow JR. Wishes for the impending year that you can talk about without starting a firestorm in the comments or chat. I'm assuming you mean for D&D Beyond, because I would say, peace on earth, that love would prevail. Those are definitely my major driving life force wishes out there. But I can also say I want to use the encounter tracker in all the ways that we just discussed it. I really wish that, and I'm looking forward to using digital dice. I'll go on and say that because I think it's probably a pretty thin veil, but we are going to, this is, I guess, your world first here. We are going to provide ways for you to customize your dice. And so this is going to be a lot of fun. Consider something like a lava set of dice that maybe have little kind of, lava veins on the dice, animating. Let's say that you roll a 20 or for a critical hit on that lava set of dice and it explodes in animation like a volcano. All of those kinds of things are going to be happening with our dice, and you're going to be able to pick up special dice as a subscriber. So, on some regular basis as a subscriber, you'll be getting different dice, textures and everything to work with your dice. We will be working with some other organizations out there in the world to provide, dice skins and textures as well. So lots and lots of fun with dice coming in 2020. And that is just the tip of the iceberg, I assure you. Let's see, anything else that what else would I say that I'm looking forward to? Yeah, I think those are two of the major things that I'm definitely looking forward to next year, and I'm certainly looking forward to some of the work that we have coming on the other side of our business with Cortex and some of the role playing opportunities that we have going on with that. All right, next question. From Vaxum, can the older source books and adventures have more hyperlinks added so that it's more consistent with newer content? For example, Xanathar's Guide to Everything has links to each random encounter table, but the DMG only has links for the treasure table section. That's something we can certainly look at. over time, and hopefully our content management team is taking notes here. All right, Luigi Green 84. Are there any plans to change the opacity of the character sheet? I like the backgrounds and want to see more of it. Doubt very seriously we would ever change the opacity of the sheet because we want to prioritize the game information. But there could be ways for us to display the backdrops with more clarity, i.e., being able to see them separately in a different window, perhaps. So that's something that we can look into. Hold on one second. All right. Chase Ballbat. How do I remove, hide the Italian PHB from my source books? You don't yet, but we will have something that will organize all of that in an easier and better way in the mega menu before too much longer. We do realize that it is an issue, but there's nothing that you can do about that. It's something that we will be doing on our side. Ben's 74M, can you include a toggle button in the character preferences during character creation for acquisitions incorporated? Thanks. You're talking about being able to change it at the source category level. We've not done that at this point in time because technically Acquisitions Incorporated takes place in Forgotten Realms primarily, and it's kind of been all over. I agree, but from Wizards of the Coast perspective, primarily in the Forgotten Realms, and the Forgotten Realms is considered core D&D. So we haven't done that to this point, but if you have that feedback, continue to share it, and we'll certainly bring this up with Wizards and see what they have to say about it. All right, Aggie Bear in the combat tracker encounter builder, will you be able to add NPC allies? Yes, you will at least eventually be able to. That's something that should be relatively quick. Devere P, do the players always see the enemy type, or does the DM have an option to only display the types they already know? We'll certainly have some type of preferences that where players, when they are looking at the encounter, are only seeing their other party members. The DM will have the ability to hide things like hit points and all those stats and everything for the monsters. We will do our best to make it to where the DM can essentially show whatever they want to show when the players are looking at the initiative. But yeah, that's a great question, and we understand the need for the potential for secrecy there. So yes, that will be something that will be baked into this. One translucent. Can the DM others see your role? So initially, anyway, with dice, no one else is going to be seeing the roll. So you can continue to cheat if you want. No, I'm just joking. But no one's going to see your roll. It's just something that's happening on your screen. Over time, we would have a situation where the DM, again, once these connections start taking place and there's an actual session, the concept of a session, then the DM would be able to see your roll. The DM will be able to either display their role or hide their role and so on. So we'll have all the different options available as we get down the road. But initially, it will be something only for your screen, and you would report on what you rolled. Aaron Zell, what is your favorite holiday adventure? I think that I probably answered that during Pop Talk, but I definitely enjoyed in the Leylands when I had Nicholas the Gift Giver appear, very straight out of the C.S. Lewis, idea, gave a boon, a gift to each of the adventurers in like manner, and then essentially after that happened, and they were going to go and battle some of the forces of the Wolf King, they realized that the gift giver had also been captured as he was going around and giving these gifts. And so it became a rescue operation where they were trying to save Santa Claus. And because if they didn't, the realm would not see the holiday of Yuletide. So yeah, that was probably my favorite that I've ever played through anyway. The Artificer is the first new class since the player's handbook. What class would you want added if you had that power? Mechanic or thematic answers welcome. That's a good question. I would probably want, and see, this is a little unfair because they're kind of working on this right now. I definitely like psionics. I'm not convinced that psionics have ever been implemented incredibly well. And the reason that I would say that is that anytime I have ever played a psionic character, I have broken the game, and dungeon masters don't even want me in the group. So that's the main reason that I think I would say that. But I do love psionics. If you ask me what my favorite superpower would be, I would say telekinesis, and that would be closely followed by telepathy. And so, that being the case, I would love a scion or a mystic or whatever it needs to be called to be added to the game. And mechanically, I certainly would want things to be, based around that. I think that there is potentially also room for a more generic type of class that almost has, especially if they're introducing the concept of alternate class abilities or features rather, there is potentially room for a class that is very universal from just the base core class, and then you build out its class features based on a menu of options. I think something like that would be very appealing, where you could almost end up with someone that is not classically trained as a paladin, but could potentially still be a holy warrior of some sort. That right there is mechanically and thematically appealing to me. I see somebody saying AKA Bard. No, not at all. Not at all. Way more universal than that. Adventure Fight. You've had the opportunity to play with some pretty awesome people, but do you have anyone else on your bucket list that would be part of your dream D&D game? I have been able to play with some pretty awesome people, so that has been pretty awesome. Um, I would love to play with. Hmm, I would love to play with Neil Gaiman. I would love to play with Nathan Fillion. I just think I would like him a lot. I would love to play with Amy Poehler because I just can't imagine that not being fun. I would want to play with. Hmm, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I guess we'll end there. But yeah, those would probably be three that I would love to play with. I'm sure that list goes longer than that, but yeah, off the top of my head, those are three I would love to play with. ATM 1982. Did they have ATMs in 1982? I don't know. Can you make it so I can search among my unlocked source books for playable races trait bonuses? For example, if I want to play a wizard, I would like to sort the races by their intelligence bonus. I would probably need to know where you mean that. I'm assuming the character builder, potentially the races listing. But yes, I think that that is very reasonable and something that we can take a look at. Earnest follower of what? Will the DM or players be able to disable prompting players to have each enter initiative? I would prefer to auto roll for everyone. Oh yes, that's something that I could have mentioned, just neglected to earlier. There will be the ability for the DM to just simply auto roll for every creature that's participating in that combat, and that is by far the quickest way for initiative to be over and done, and you move right into the next into the actual action. So yes, that is something that will also be available. Resilient DM, best advice to convince someone to give it a try to play D&D at least once. Um, Ask them if they like make believe, and if they like make believe, tell them that it's just a structured way to make believe, and that it's something that you do with other people instead of staring into your screen all day. That would be that's been the winning advice that I have used most recently that has been successful. Philip Gibb, probably. Is there opportunity for developers to be involved to help externally and ad hoc? We do not currently have any way to do that. As I've talked about before, we do our best to hire missionaries and not mercenaries. And so we want developers who are really just really in deep with what we're doing and understanding our framework and everything else. And that becomes harder and harder if we are just freelancing or contracting that help and that support. It's not to say it wouldn't happen in the future at some point, but it's something that we are not set up with at this point in time. Waff wrap. No clue if this was asked or it was intended. In rogue starting equipment, how come in a quiver of 20 arrows there is no quiver, but only the arrows inputted in the equipment list? I would venture a guess to say oversight, but I don't have any answer other than that. So we'll see what we can do about getting that updated. Aaron Zell, why are we only getting 2 Marvel movies in 2020? I think they needed a little bit of a deep breath after the Infinity Saga. That would be my guess. Sakamatana 5. Any discounts for the holiday? We just had a very, very big discount on Cyber Monday. And if there's anything else going on, I'm not aware of it at this point in time. Beta Beer is pushing the initiative out to Avre on the roadmap. Initiative. Oh, I see what you're saying from the encounter tracker. That's something that we would want to look at, how the integration makes sense and how it best makes sense. But no concrete details that I can share yet on that front. DM Anvil, what magical property does your eggnog have? Eggnog of repulsion, because I don't drink that stuff. If it ain't sweet and it ain't tea, it probably ain't getting drunk. Maybe a little bit of water occasionally. Kilgore 44. Are there plans to expand the campaign organization for DMs beyond private and public notes? Different folders for places or NPCs, for example, so that I do not need to constantly scroll through notes until I find what I'm looking for. We recognize that there's plenty of opportunity for improvement with a good bit of what's going on in the campaign page and that is something that we hope that we can start addressing in 2020. Michelson Games content management. The initial pass has been completed and is great. And the project has been moved to a completed status on your feature roadmap. Is there a way to know if additional enhancements are still being worked on? There's definitely a way to know that, and that would be they're not being worked on at this point. We definitely completed that first pass. It is not something that is being worked on at this point. It is something that will hit the roadmap. We do have plans and things that we would like to do with that system, but it's something that will hit the short term at some point. We probably need to get another placeholder out in the long-term column to indicate that yes, it is something that is still planned. But we hope as we go through the holidays, we're going to try to clean up the public roadmap a little bit because we have fallen a little lax in keeping that updated. Because this is always the danger of providing something like a public roadmap. Our preference is to focus on doing the work and not doing the work to keep a secondary tracking list updated. So it's not that work's not going on. It's not that these things aren't planned, but the administration of keeping that up to date has not gone exactly how we want to. So anyway, that's something that we hope to clean up a little bit through the holidays. Brunch with Broadway. Will you ever have a treasure generator for DMs that includes treasures from not just the DMG, but other books? I believe that's going to be very possible. Yes. Not exactly sure when, but it will happen, I believe. Vaxum, can we get the player backdrop graphics and images available for general display use? I use a video conference app while playing, and I'd love to have these images available as a screen to share. That's something that we can look into, as I alluded to earlier. Any interest in creating an extension for Mixer, please? I've been trying to hack the JSON of a character sheet and it's not fun. Yeah, it's not intended. It's not an API and it's not really intended for it to be fun for you. From Bingo Bob here. That is something that we would continue to look at the demand. And as it stands right now, we just don't have enough streamers on Mixer for that to make a lot of business sense for us. But I would definitely not say it's out of the realm of possibility. To be honest, I don't even know what Mixer's capabilities are. We would have to dig into it. Gundar Stonecrusher. Any suggestions for sharing fold out content like maps found in the hardcover adventures with a party when using digital content? Game meets IRL. You just got me to say IRL, which is something I don't say. So congratulations, Gundar Stonecrusher. Yeah, I think that this is something that we want to make better. Right now you can open the maps in DDB. You can open those images into new tabs, and those tabs can be displayed anywhere that you can get a screen to pull in your browser. But this is something that we would like to improve as we start getting session management to be a thing, and especially as we get a virtual game space to start coming together. Aaron Lore, will we be able to have prices auto subtracted from our character sheet when adding items or adding pets as extras? That is a very tricky. Whoop! I almost coughed. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. That is a very tricky situation because dungeon masters are not obligated to use the pricing that is available in the player's handbook or dungeon master's guide. And so in order to make something like that possible, I'm not saying that it's outside the realm of possibility, we would have to essentially allow dungeon masters to create stores where they pull in different types of equipment And then when your players visit those stores, the pricing is controlled and at least blessed or approved by the dungeon master. I just explained that in a decent amount of detail. And so that, may indicate that we have been thinking about how we could do this. Because we have. And so we'll see what happens as we get into inventory management enhancements. But this is one of the things where we could just not do that wholesale across the board. We would have to put a lot of other controls and preferences in place to make it possible. Uh, Ecthelion. Will DMs one day be able or buy an option to enable sharing with more than 3 created campaigns? I run 4 games and it would be super helpful. Yeah, right now you can certainly do that by having 2 individuals that have a master subscription. So that is definitely the intended use case for that. That you can have as many you can have as many campaigns as you would like. You're not limited in that, but you can only share content with up to 3 of those at a time. As far as adding new content sharing slots, that's something that we have considered. But again, any economic way for that to make sense is going to be very, very similar to having 2 master subscriptions and having another player or dungeon master in one of those games have that subscription. So we'll continue to keep an eye on this and see what we can do about it. But we definitely there's been a lot of thought and science behind what we think is incredibly generous to be able to spread across 3 campaigns and up to 36 players to be able to share content that you've unlocked. So we always try to think about how that looks and how that feels. And when we put it that way, what we're doing is rather generous. And so we have to be careful. We still do have to run a business. We can't give away the entire farm for all of this, or otherwise we wouldn't be able to continue to run the platform. So understand the desire and understand where that's coming from, but it's just not something that we can do anything about at this point in time. Quillix P. Will you be adding the Adventures League adventure modules to purchase in D&D Beyond? That is the plan, and we hope to see some of that in 2020. Maybe a couple more here. Aaron Lore, why can't we have all the things right meow? Because uh, unless something typically goes wrong, human beings are born in 9 months. No matter how many people you throw at it, no matter what kind of science you try to apply, no matter how high scale your resources are, the baby still takes 9 months to get here, and so it's something you can look up out there. Good things come to those who wait. Null Zone 42. Will status tracking et al. Be bidirectional? Put another way, thanks, because I don't know what you mean yet. If I as DM flag a player as stunned, can they see that on their DDB character sheet? That would be the idea. Yes, we would want it to be there. Maybe 2 more. AK 318. Will Mordenkainene's Fiendish Folio Volume 1 Monsters Malevolent and Benign, the new Extra Life book, be getting added to DDB? Also, will One Grung Above be available in the future? We're trying to check on One Grung Above. That one slipped through the cracks. Wizards hasn't said that we could do that one yet, but we are trying to check on it. But the Fiendish Folio Monsters Malevolent and Benign is indeed going to be on D&D Beyond. I'm not exactly sure when that's going to happen, but I think it's going to happen relatively soon. One more question. Who gets the final of the day? Rocket LS14. Have built a paladin and under actions, it lists divine sense twice. Is there a way to eliminate duplicate info created in the character creator? It should not be doing that. I play a lot of paladins and I haven't seen that happen myself. So if that is happening for you, I encourage you to check out our forums and post about the problem that you're having, and someone will be very happy to help you. It could be potentially that you're getting that somehow from a homebrew element, or who knows what else. So yeah, the forums can definitely help you, but I don't have enough information to help you, unfortunately, here on the stream. But we definitely will help you if you want to post about that in one of our Discord or the forums. We can certainly help. All right, I think that's it for today. It has been good to be back with you after a couple of weeks off. We are going to be here for our final development update of the year next week on the 19th. Look forward to seeing you then. Hope everyone has a great day. Later, Gators.